Adolf Hitler's early life was marked by turmoil and upheaval. From a young age, he was exposed to a world that was constantly shifting and changing, a world that would shape his views and his future actions in profound ways. Born in Braunau am Inn, Austria on April 20th, 1889, he was the fourth of 6 children. His early years were spent in a small town that straddled the border between Austria and Germany, a place that would instill in him a deep sense of connection to both countries.
His father, Alois, was a strict and authoritarian customs official. Alois demanded obedience and respect, often resorting to harsh discipline to enforce his rules. This created a tense and oppressive atmosphere at home.
His mother, Clara, was a doting and affectionate parent. She provided a stark contrast to Alois, offering warmth and comfort to her children. Clara's love and care were a source of solace for young Adolf amidst the strictness of his father.
Hitler's relationship with his father was strained, marked by frequent clashes and a lack of warmth. Alois had high expectations for his son, often pushing him towards a career in the civil service, a path Adolf had no interest in pursuing. The family moved frequently during Hitler's childhood, adding to the instability of his early years. Each move meant a new school, new friends, and a new environment to adapt to, which only added to his sense of isolation and disconnection.
He attended several different schools, but he excelled in none. His academic performance was poor, and he often clashed with his teachers. This lack of success in school further fueled his resentment and anger. He was often withdrawn and sullen, prone to fits of anger and resentment. His peers found him difficult to get along with, and he struggled to form lasting friendships. This sense of alienation would stay with him throughout his life.
The death of his younger brother Edmund from measles in 1900 deeply affected the young Hitler. Edmund's death was a devastating blow, and Adolf's grief only deepened his sense of isolation and loss. He became increasingly isolated and withdrawn, seeking solace in a world of fantasy and grandiose dreams. He spent hours reading books and imagining a future where he would rise above his circumstances and achieve greatness.
Despite the challenges of his youth, Hitler developed a strong sense of German nationalism. He was drawn to the idea of a unified Germany, a nation that would stand strong and proud on the world stage. This was fueled in part by his upbringing in Austria, a multi-ethnic empire where German speakers often felt marginalized. The diverse cultural landscape of Austria made him acutely aware of his German identity and the perceived threats to it.
He devoured books on German history and mythology, developing a romanticized view of Germany's past. These stories of heroism and grandeur captivated his imagination and shaped his worldview, and a yearning for its future greatness. He dreamed of a Germany that would reclaim its rightful place in the world, a vision that would drive his actions in the years to come. These early experiences, shaped by a turbulent family life, a sense of displacement, and a burgeoning nationalist sentiment, would profoundly influence the man Hitler would become. The seeds of his future ambitions and ideologies were sown in these formative years, setting the stage for the tumultuous path he would later follow. Driven by a desire for artistic glory, Hitler sought admission to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. He was not just another hopeful artist. He was a young man with a burning ambition to make a name for himself in the world of art. He saw himself as a painter of grand landscapes and imposing architecture, dreaming of leaving his mark on the world through art. His sketches and paintings were filled with visions of majestic buildings and serene natural scenes, reflecting his deep passion for the craft.
However, his aspirations were met with crushing disappointment. The rejection was not just a setback, it was a devastating blow to his self-esteem and his dreams. The Academy rejected his application, not once but twice, deeming his portfolio insufficient. Each rejection letter was a stark reminder that his artistic talents were not recognized by the very institution he revered.
These rejections cut deep, wounding Hitler's pride and fueling a simmering resentment. The pain of being told he was not good enough gnawed at him, creating a festering wound that would never fully heal. He had poured his hopes and dreams into his art, only to be told he was not good enough. The rejection was not just of his work, but of his very identity as an artist.
The experience left him feeling humiliated and betrayed, convinced that the world was conspiring against him. He began to see the rejection as part of a larger pattern of personal and societal failure.
The years that followed were a time of drift and despair for Hitler. He scraped by on meagre earnings, selling postcards and painting street scenes in Vienna. His once grand dreams of artistic success were reduced to mere survival. He lived a solitary existence, frequenting libraries and immersing himself in political pamphlets and radical newspapers. These readings began to shape his worldview, providing a new outlet for his growing anger and frustration.
His anger and resentment festered, finding an outlet in the burgeoning anti-Semitic and nationalist rhetoric that permeated Vienna's political fringes. He started attending rallies and listening to speeches that echoed his own feelings of betrayal and disillusionment. The seeds of his hateful ideology were sown, nourished by his personal failures, and the fertile ground of a society grappling with economic hardship and social unrest. The combination of his personal grievances and the turbulent political climate created a dangerous mix that would eventually lead to catastrophic consequences. Vienna, with its grand architecture and vibrant cultural scene, was also a city of stark contrasts. The opulence of its buildings stood in sharp contrast to the struggles of its inhabitants, many of whom were dealing with poverty and uncertainty. Among the city's residents were young artists and intellectuals who engaged in passionate discussions and debates about the future. These conversations often touched on the political and social issues of the day, reflecting the broader anxieties of the time. The rise of nationalist and anti-Semitic movements provided a channel for the frustrations of many, including Hitler. These movements offered simple answers to complex problems, appealing to those who felt marginalized and betrayed by society. In this environment, Hitler's personal failures and resentments found a dangerous outlet. His early years in Vienna were marked by a growing radicalization as he absorbed the toxic ideologies that would later define his political career. The tension and unrest of early 20th century Vienna were palpable, setting the stage for the emergence of extremist ideologies. It was in this crucible of discontent that Hitler's destructive path began to take shape. As he began to find his voice in the political arena, the seeds of resentment and hatred that had been planted during his years of rejection and despair started to bear fruit. The world would soon witness the devastating consequences of his radicalization. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 proved to be a turning point in Hitler's life. The war, which engulfed Europe in a conflict of unprecedented scale, would shape the destinies of millions, including a young Adolf Hitler. Seeing the war as an opportunity to prove himself and find purpose, Hitler, who had been living a rather aimless existence in Vienna, seized the moment. He believed that the war would offer him a chance to rise above his circumstances and achieve something significant. He volunteered for the German army, eager to serve his country and demonstrate his loyalty and bravery.
He served with distinction on the Western Front, where the fighting was fierce and the conditions were harsh. The Western Front was notorious for its brutal trench warfare, a grueling and deadly form of combat that tested the limits of human endurance. Enduring the horrors of trench warfare and witnessing firsthand the brutality of combat, Hitler's experiences in the trenches left an indelible mark on him. The constant threat of death, the sight of fallen comrades, and the relentless bombardments all contributed to a profound transformation in his character. He was decorated for bravery, receiving the Iron Cross First Class, a prestigious military honor that recognized his courage and dedication. The Iron Cross First Class was a rare honor for a corporal, and it filled Hitler with a sense of pride and accomplishment. This recognition further fueled his belief in his own destiny and the righteousness of his cause. A rare honor for a corporal, it solidified his sense of purpose and his commitment to the German cause.
The war had a profound impact on Hitler, forging his worldview and shaping his political ideology. The camaraderie and discipline of military life provided him with a structure and sense of belonging that he had long craved. Forging his worldview and shaping his political ideology, the war instilled in him a deep sense of nationalism and a belief in the superiority of the German people. He embraced the camaraderie and discipline of military life, finding a sense of belonging he had long craved. The bonds he formed with his fellow soldiers and the shared experiences of the battlefield created a strong sense of unity and purpose. Finding a sense of belonging he had long craved, Hitler's time in the military gave him a newfound confidence and a clear direction for his future.
The war also intensified his nationalism, convincing him of Germany's inherent superiority and its right to dominate Europe. He became increasingly convinced that Germany was destined for greatness and that it was his duty to help achieve that destiny. Convincing him of Germany's inherent superiority and its right to dominate Europe, Hitler's nationalist fervour grew stronger with each passing day.
However, Germany's defeat in 1918 left Hitler feeling betrayed and humiliated. The armistice and the subsequent Treaty of Versailles were seen by many Germans as a national humiliation, and Hitler was no exception. He saw the armistice as a stab in the back, orchestrated by Jews and socialists who he believed had undermined the war effort from within. This belief in a stab-in-the-back conspiracy became a central tenet of his political ideology. Orchestrated by Jews and socialists who he believed had undermined the war effort from within, Hitler's bitterness and resentment grew.
This conspiracy theory, fueled by his own bitterness and the widespread social unrest in post-war Germany, would become a cornerstone of his political ideology. The economic hardships and political instability of the Weimar Republic provided fertile ground for his radical ideas to take root. And the widespread social unrest in post-war Germany, the economic hardships and political instability of the Weimar Republic provided fertile ground for his radical ideas to take root, would become a cornerstone of his political ideology. As he began to articulate his views and gain followers, Hitler's vision for Germany's future became increasingly clear. The war had transformed Hitler from a disillusioned artist into a hardened veteran consumed by nationalism and a thirst for revenge. His experiences on the battlefield and the perceived betrayal of Germany's leaders fueled his desire to restore Germany to its former glory. Consumed by nationalism and a thirst for revenge, Hitler's transformation was complete. He was now a man on a mission, determined to reshape Germany and the world according to his vision.
In the aftermath of World War I, Germany was a nation in turmoil. The economy was in shambles, unemployment was rampant, and political extremism was on the rise. It was in this climate of chaos and uncertainty that Hitler's political career began. He joined the German Workers' Party, a small and insignificant group that shared his nationalist and anti-Semitic views.
Hitler's charisma and oratorical skills quickly propelled him to prominence within the party. He could captivate audiences with his fiery speeches, tapping into their anger and resentment over Germany's defeat and economic woes.
He offered them scapegoats for their problems. Jews, communists, and the democratic government he claimed had betrayed Germany.
Under Hitler's leadership, the DAP transformed into the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party. He adopted the swastika as the party's symbol and developed a paramilitary wing, the Sturmabteilung, to intimidate opponents and disrupt political meetings.
The Nazi Party, once a fringe group, was becoming a force to be reckoned with.